everybody. Welcome to the Popular Unknown Paintball Podcast. I have one of the all-time best guests that I could ever possibly hope to have on this podcast. And when I started this podcast, I wanted it to be for everyone, as long as people were passionate about paintball. That's what I wanted more than anything. That's why I've talked to Arturo. That's why I've talked to Rosa. And I've talked to a bunch of people that weren't famous. On the flip side of that, I've also talked to some very large names in paintball, and I have some very large names coming. And when I say large names, they don't get much bigger than Bud Orr. But I would argue that Bud Orr is in the past, and while I love him to death, and he knows I love him to death, my next guest is now. So without any further ado, let me introduce you to my new friend, Ledz, the man behind Planet Eclipse Paintball.
How you doing?
Hey, Ledz, how's it going?
Good, mate. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I can't even begin to tell you how excited I am to have you here. Like, that's not me screaming with my nipples, by the way. That's me trying to show you the shirt.
Very well feel that. I like it. Those jerseys, we used to send those out with a money clip in them.
Oh, yeah? Well,
yeah.
I didn't get it new, unfortunately. I would have liked to, but I got this in a job lot with a bunch of other things, and this was one of the reasons, though, that I wanted to buy it. But I was talking to you about it earlier. I do have an autococker, and I put a lot of Eclipse parts on it, and then actually a couple autocockers. But yeah, my two favorite upgrades were always Planet Eclipse first, and when I couldn't find that, Shock Tech.
That's cool.
So that was my order. And then when I got back into paintball a couple of years ago, that right there, that old purple Etha, it was sitting on the wall at a local pawn shop because it was a few years old. And I thought, well, you know what? I can get it for $150, and it came with a tank, and it came with a Halo loader. And I thought, what better way to have something that I could actually get parts for and clean it up? Because I said, well, I always loved the Planet Eclipse gear. I said, well, let's get that. And then within a few months after that, then I got an E-Tech, and now I'm trying to wait to take a look at your new Geo4s when they roll out this way, because that may be because that black and purple goes with the Alley Remembered Foundation and stuff. So I'm pretty excited about getting my hands on that. So I'm sort of tossed between the Geo4 and your new 1.6 that are coming out.
Well, you could get one of each.
I could, but I don't have that kind of money. I'm a podcaster, and right now we don't get paid a whole lot.
No.
You know, a lot's changed in the paintball industry between the way I used to remember it from the 90s and now. Like, as you know, sponsorship has all completely changed in how teams are sponsored and things like that. And I'm not saying it's for the worse. I'm not saying it's for the better, but it's very, very different.
Yeah, I think the sponsorship of teams has changed dramatically. I mean, we've been pushing for certain changes for quite a while, really. It became a thing where the pro teams were using paintball markers almost as a currency. So you'd sponsor a pro team, and you would give them, 10, 20, 50, 100 guns, whatever it happened to be. And they would just turn that into cash. And they would usually do it in not a very professional way. So, if little Johnny needed to go pay his rent, and he happened to have a couple of paintball markers that he'd been given for sponsorship, and these should have been $1,000, retail, and he only needed $500-600 for his rent, he'd sell one for $500-600 because the thought process would be gone. So, and I think it's always been sort of that way. But as the world became a lot more connected over the years with the internet and all, and just the speed of communication, one paintball marker sort of getting sold into the community really cheap affected lots and lots of people. I mean, really badly. And where the phone calls we were getting, or our internet police that we sort of go and do this policing, they would sort of find this out, and it would affect 5-6 stores, just one marker.
Right.
And so in the end, we sort of said, well, we can't do this anymore. It's ruining the industry. Bricks and mortar is an important sort of product for paintball to exist. It's you can buy a lot of stuff online, and we get that. we can't stay in the past. We've got to move to the future,
right?
So, or to the current, and you can buy whatever you want online, but sometimes it's nice to go and feel it, pick it up, grab it, and sort of go, oh, this is for me. I'm going to put these gloves on. I'm going to put this jersey on, whatever it happens to be for you. So the bricks and mortar stores need to be there, and you can also get good, solid advice. You walk into a store, and the guy behind the counter knows what he wants to sell you a product that he knows you're going to be happy with because it's customer facing. It's not blank like the internet is. He wants to sell you something you're going to enjoy, and he's going to pitch it at the right level for that player. And he wants to sell you something that's not going to come back broken or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
So it's really important that we support those stores, and that's what we sort of try and do. And one of the things we did was we took away the ability for the teams to just sell cheap products, value the market, and we didn't want that.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense to me. I wasn't making a complaint. It's very different between then and now, and how everything has changed, and that makes perfect sense to me. Yeah. And I made a couple promises. I had Rosa on a couple days ago, Saturday, I think it was. Yeah, and she is a fairly new player. She plays out of Kansas, and I believe it's I beg your pardon?
Very passionate.
Yeah, she was. Anyway, she had a lot of really nice things to say about your, excuse me, MG100s.
Yeah.
Like she started with, I believe it was I want to call it a mini because to my name, they're always the invert minis, but now they're the GS Axes or the GS minis. Anyway, she started with one of those, and then her husband got an MG100, and she had to have one too. And she just for the whole podcast, kept bringing it up how great these MG100s were. Yeah. Now they're based on the EMAC, right?
Yeah, I mean it's the Gamma Core is the thing that's inside it. That's what makes it so. And she kept saying the thing she kept saying was how bulletproof it was and how it just keeps going and going and going and going.
Oh, so you saw it?
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I'm into paintball. I watch all these things.
Fair enough.
And she's right. I mean, the Gamma Core is an absolute workhorse of an engine, and its performance is fantastic as well. But yeah, the Ether 2 is got the Gamma Core in it, and it sort of goes through our range really, slightly changing. But yeah, that's what's in there, and it's really good.
Yeah, no, well, I'm really looking forward to getting something a little more new, a little more modern. I was using an E-Tech 4 when I was playing at Chicago NXL last year when I was playing with Destiny. Because they're a Planet Eclipse team, I thought, well, best that I get a Planet Eclipse marker and try to support as best I can. Even though I was a guest, I could have used anything I wanted. So I made sure I got that, and I really liked it. Like I liked how snappy it felt, and I had just gotten that recently. Now I know that's a bit older still, but I'm just getting back into the swing of things.
The E-Techs are is the baby brother of the our Ego line, so
yes,
the LV line. So it's a bit more sort of less refined than the LV line, but again, we used to sort of joke about that one before our sort of current Gamma Core sort of gun range started coming out. The E-Tech was one of the ones you'd almost think, well, it should come with a shovel, because if I'm playing scenario, I could go and dig myself a hole with this and it'd still be fine, and then go and shoot people with it.
Yeah,
so, yeah, and there, I love the LV line. I've been a sort of champion of the LV since it's sort of come out. Really, I've always jumped around because I'm in a great fortunate position. Obviously, it's my company, so I can go and shoot whatever I want. But I always sort of gravitate back to the LV, and it's just always something it ticks a lot of my boxes. I still play competitively. I play scenarios, and I play MagFed, and I play tournaments, Woodland and Airball, and for me, it's always just been about the quality of the shot, not necessarily about the kick or the smoothness or the sound signature. I've never really bothered about that sort of stuff. It's always been when I pull the trigger, the ball goes where I want it to go. And if anything, I quite like quite a snappy response. I want to be able to feel that I've fired it. And when I first started shooting the Geo line, it was very sort of like poof, 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 you know, beautiful. I mean, it's what people love, how quiet and smooth and all those things. But for me, I wanted something really snappy, and I wanted to know that I'd fired my gun, and it was, you know, and that's why I've always loved it. So
that's one of the reasons why I liked it as much as I did. Plus, and I know this is going to sound silly, but I like how it looks, and this is purely opinionated. I like how the LV Ego E-Tech looks with that little cutaway in the back. Like it looks like you've taken a gun and hot rodded it and sent it out. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with the looks of the other guns. I mean, they have all the nice milling and stuff, but the Egos just look like they're built for pure aggression, and they look like they've been cut and modified and stuff. And I like everything about that gun and how it looks and feels. And so I'm really looking forward to getting my grubby little paws on the 1.6s.
Yeah, the 1.6 will be, it's weird. What the 1.6 was, it was a way of us keeping the Ego line going. We sort of stopped the production of the 1.5, and we just had so many problems with the solenoid. So we just couldn't keep the line going. It was just causing us huge problems in production. Not once they'd left the building, because we'd solve all the problems in the house. So once you got a working one, that was fine. But it was the amount that we just couldn't get working. It was just rejecting solenoid after solenoid. And in the end, we said we can't do this. So we had to close it down. But then, you know, public demand was like, why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you doing it? And there's got to be, you can't, we've like the LV2, okay? It's usually the elephant in the room. Everybody will say, why have you not made an LV2?
Right.
The problem with the LV2 is that Jack Wood, the lead designer, he's got a set of principles that he wants to have in all of these products. You know, we still, you know, live by some of the rules of, you know, we want it to be sort of simple, easy to maintain. You know, we want it to work around the world in hot weather, cold weather, whatever it happens to be. And one of the things that we know with an LV2 is literally if we could get rid of the AT pipe and put it all internal, so it's like a new modern platform looking with no hoses, then that's almost what the LV2 could be, right? Okay.
Right.
I'm not an engineer, and I'm not technical in any way, shape, or form, but that's what people keep saying. We want an LV2, and then you see the mock-ups that people sort of try and create,
right?
And it's always got no hose, because then hoseless is the modern way of doing it, right? So Jack sort of goes away and he sort of says, well, okay, well, we can do. I mean, you can do anything with, you know. Right. $1 million, we could sit there and we could design absolutely everything, but we have to retool, redesign, you know, we'd have to have new grips, we'd have to new everything. Absolutely everything would have to be new. And then the amount of people that would then buy that product, we don't know. We don't know if it's 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people. Okay, if we're getting into the, you know, the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,000 people, then you can justify, you know, putting the time and the money into that product, and then redoing all the moldings. If the number is going to be 500 people, no chance. There's, you know, the way that our company's set up now, to do 500 or something is almost impossible to do. So it just sort of sits there, and Jack says, well, how many people are going to buy this? And we go, we don't know, because there might be 100 people who shout very loudly about it and want it to happen. And then so you sell 100, you're really happy, you know, get your first 100 out the door, and then the next,
same thing. I went out, I had stickers made. Nope, so very few people bought them, but everybody wanted them.
Yeah. I mean, I could list so many products that people shout at us, you must make more, or you need to create this product, you need to do this. And then in reality, there's a few people that want it, because everybody wants their personal thing in everything in life. You know, the remote control for your TV might not sit that well in your left hand or whatever, you know, but that's only for left-handed people, you know.
Right.
It could be anything. So with the LV2, which doesn't exist, it's a case of, you know, how many can we make? So with LV 1.6, we wanted to create a product that kept the line going, because it's where we started. Ego was where we started. It's
Right.
our, it's out the birth of the bigger version of Planet. So we wanted to keep it going, and there was so many people out there were trying to buy secondhand LV 1.5s. They ended up going for more a secondhand one, not particularly good secondhand ones. We're going for more money than a brand new one would be. So we sort of went, well, okay, there's obviously demand. We don't have to tool up. We don't have to retool everything. There's certain things we'll have to change, which like we did. We rebuilt a solenoid, which is miles better. It's user serviceable now, so you can take it apart yourself. So we said that's the new platform, and that's why the people don't always understand our increments of how we do things. So if it would be an LV2, then it'd be a big change. From LV 1.5 to LV 1.6, the only thing that's really changed is the solenoid and a few of the little tweaks inside.
Yeah.
That's why it's a 1.6 rather than it being an LV 2. So because we you need to go to that bigger step really. So
well, did you read the little write-ups about the Geo4 and the LV 1.6 in Paintball Media magazine?
Yeah.
That was me.
Good man.
I'm the one that said, oh, this is awesome, and I'm the one that sort of drooled all over them a bit. Although I haven't actually had them in my hands yet, but I took the write-up that you had, and I did a lot of research, and so.
I mean, it's one of those, and again, this is something misconceptions where people sort of seem to think that we go out there and we build products and we're almost forcing people to buy them. If you've got an LV 1.5, you don't necessarily need a 1.6.
No.
You're probably not going to feel a huge amount of difference with it. I mean, some of our beta testers have been reporting things back saying it feels like a much smoother shot. But I mean, we haven't got a smoother shot calibrating machine that I can put it on and go, oh look, it's 4% smoother. We haven't got that. So it's a different feeling, but it's for people who haven't got a 1.5 or they haven't got an LV at all and they want to try it because it works. And I mean, we reckon we're probably about if there's a 10-man team and you're all shooting high-end Planet Eclipse markers, you'd probably have 9 or 8 that would shoot a CS2 or the Geo4 now, spool valve type gun, and you'd have 1 or 2, 10 or 20% that would shoot the poppet valve, the LV, and that's about the sort of ratio that it is. You've got players, in the NXL Pro brackets in Europe and in America that play for Planet Eclipse teams. You've got the odd one guy on the odd team playing it. J-Rab's, a big advocate of the LV. People like that. Can't mention Nick Sloviak anymore, but anyway, those guys. And they love it, and it's the platform for them. Where, like for me, it's a platform for me. I mean, I've got a CS2, and I'm waiting for my 1.6 to get built, and then I'll be back onto that.
So when you get your 1.6 built, because it's you and because it's your company, are you going to take one of the stock colors, or are you getting something special made?
Well, I play. I still play for a team called Sandbaggers, which is like one of the Planet Eclipse factory teams. And I had a Sandbagger 1.5, and we have a graphic design on our jerseys, and we just take the elements of the jersey and we put that onto the side of the gun. So I'll probably do another one of those.
Okay. Well, I wasn't sure if you were going to pull a Bud Orr and get it gold plated or something.
No, I quite like the graphic stuff. I have my name put in the graphics and things.
All right. Well, fair enough.
So it's I don't know if you've ever seen the graphic that we put on the side of the guns. The quite the real nice graphics. They have a silver line that goes down the top, and there's nothing you can actually do about that. It's the way that the process goes. It's almost like it's like a printed process.
Sure.
It's flat, and then the graphic goes down, and then obviously where this part is here, it's a white line. So what I do with mine is I go into where it's done, and I get some special inks, and I hand paint the top of my own marker, so it's got a black top on it, because you can't do that normally. And
right.
it's a night. I go in there and I go, move out of the way, I'm doing this, and they're like, no, and they make a right mess, and it's not easy to do either. And I've got to sit there for a couple of hours and I paint it, and then you let it dry, because you're painting. If you imagine painting oil onto metal, it comes on and it almost drips off. So you have to let a tiny layer that it goes. So it goes from silver to light grey, then darker until I get it to go black. And then that's my own personal little customization.
So that's good to know. And you've done that more than one gun, I assume.
I've done it on a couple now, yeah. And then I'll definitely do it on this one as well.
I would love, and I mean love, to be there when you did that, just because it's like, I pay your checks. You're gonna let me do this.
I mean, I'll send them an email or phone them and say, right, when you're doing my gun, give me a call. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. And then move out the way and they sit there and a tiny little paintbrush to do it with. And I'm not the most artistic either, so I'm splashing it everywhere, and it's like.
Okay, so, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm enjoying this so much. It made me skip a gear for a second. Okay, I'm going to switch over to Facebook for just a second. So you can see me, but I can't currently see you. But I know that there was a couple questions for you, and I want to make sure I get that in. Chris Struck, he wanted to know if there's going to be any collaborations with GI or any other companies coming up. That was for question 1. And he was curious as to why the Planet Eclipse brought back the IV and Geo platforms instead of staying with the CS2 line.
Okay, collaborations. We talk. It's not something that we go out and go, "Hey guys, do you want to do your own?"
Right.
They come to us and say, what can we do? We're interested in that. So we constantly talk to the guys at Twister. That we've done the Twister line now for quite a while, and that's not really my department, but I see designs getting thrown about. I won't talk specifics about who we're doing designs for, because there's quite often we do them, we then put them, we might get a prototype done, or we'll do a line drawing or a 3D, a 3D drawing, and then it just won't happen for whatever reason. It won't be the right time for us. It won't be the right time for them. A lot of the companies that we try and do it with, they'll go, they'll drag their feet a little bit, and then all of a sudden they'll say, right, we need them in 2 weeks, and we're like, no, it doesn't work like that. We're not like just sat here waiting for you to give me the go. We literally are doing it where we'll probably be 6, 8, 10 weeks away from starting to produce products, even if that quick. So we're talking to people all the time, and we're available for companies to come and talk to us. So if there's somebody out there that wants to do a collab, then come and talk to us. We're available. It's something, and we like doing it. I mean, the HK one was great for us, because I like those guys. They remind me of what Planet maybe was quite a few years ago. We've all grown up a little bit, and they're the cool kids on the block, and and they make great content, and I love that we can be involved in their projects. So that's quite nice. I like it. So it's good.
Well, if you want to do a limited run of Popular Unknown with the handprint, okay, I don't ask for anything in return. I just think it'd be cool to see. So if you want to do like 10 little limited designs, you be my guest. You have my permission.
Is this the same thing like with the stickers, where you're going to ask everybody and we'll order 2,000 and then you'll end up with 1,999?
Well, I don't think so, because it's just a graphic. It's not like you have to retool. But
well, I mean, as in, because people will tell you that they want them, and then that's the same sort of thing. But we do like the team print stuff. Anybody can do that. We rolled out. We never really rolled it out. We did a program that was, if you wanted a one-off, every now and again we get somebody who wants a picture of their granny on a unicorn jumping over the Grand Canyon, okay, on a rocket, right? So and they'll come to us and they say, "Oh, can you do this?" And we can do it. We can do one-off prints on a gun for you, but it's really difficult and it's really expensive, because we have the machines that we run. If I run one print, the machine's still running as if it's running 10. So it's cost the same amount of money to do one as it costs to do 10. But we can do it, and we do it for people. And if anybody's really got a burning desire to have something put onto one of our high end markers, we don't do it on the mid range or low end, but we do it on I mean, at the moment you'd be able to get it on a CS2 Pro, and I'm guessing. We're not actually talked about this properly, but a Geo4 and an LV 1.6 probably be able to get it on those as well. Those are the models. And if you've got a team and you want if there was a popular unknown team and you wanted 7 markers, then come to us, and we'll talk to you about it, and we can do that. So
nice. Well, everybody out there listening or watching, they're gonna hear that, and maybe that'll get you a few more sales.
Yeah. I mean, we're busy. I mean, well, if we were open, we'd be busy. So,
right.
It's one of those. So to answer the other part of the question of why have we brought Ivy Core back? So, like I said earlier, I'm not a technical person in the slightest. So for me, it's all about put the gas in the bottom, the paint in the top, and hopefully it comes out the front of the gun.
Okay.
Other people, they prefer certain sound signatures or how the markers feel. And the IV core had quite a big following. And when we went away from the IV core, we upset a lot of people.
Yes.
And so Jack said, well, with CS1 being the IV core, and then the platform that Jack produced with the CS1 had very polarized opinions from different people. Grips are saying too big. It was sort of spread out a little bit too much. And Jack had specific reasons why he did that,
right.
But it wasn't one of our most popular platforms. But he still liked the Ivy Core, and he still liked how it works, and he still said there's a place, and he kept saying there's a place for this, there's a place for this. And it wasn't until we sort of sat down and said, okay, well, what's next, in the line for us? And he said, I really want to bring the IV core back. I really feel like I could do a new Geo. The 3.5 was super popular for us. And he said, I want to do Geo4, want to go down, slim it down a little bit, from where the CS1 was. And I want to put it into this platform, and it's going to be the Geo again. And I was like, go for it. I mean, Jack has explained over the years different things. I mean, the CS line, at one point, it was going to be our high end. So it didn't really matter if it was an LV or it was any platform line. It could be the Geo, it could be an Ivy Core, it could be Gamma Core. It was just whatever our high-end flagship mark at the time was going to be the CS whatever. But we ended up not doing that because it started to get confusing. So we try. I mean, I know if you're new to it, all the different Geo 3.5, Geo 4, LV 1. Whatever probably sounds quite confusing, but to us it has some sort of logic. So we want to keep the Geo line because the 3.5 was so sought after and so loved. And
still is.
Yeah, if you see anybody write, "Oh, what's your best ever marker?" The amount of people have said Geo 3.5, Geo 3.5. So we sort of went, okay, well, we like that. We like that platform. Jack loved the Ivy Core, and he said, right, okay, let's put it into a new package. So that's what we did.
That's awesome. Actually, that makes me think of something. And so when I started playing, it was Bud Orr, Glenn Palmer, and Tom Kay, and they were the big innovators. And now you've got Simon from Inception Design, which I guess he's always been an innovator. And Jack Woods is arguably the smartest man in paintball right now as far as gear comes down. Hands down, he's the creator of the best, newest tech. Where do you think that paintball is going to go in the future, and who do you think some of the new people coming up might be that has some really great ideas? Like, I mean, I know you've got Planet Eclipse, and it is by far the quality standard by which all other paintball markers set. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Hands down, you guys are the best, as far as I'm concerned anyway. I mean, there's some other fantastic gear out there, and everybody's making some really fantastic stuff, but Planet Eclipse has always been the best. And I think it's because you guys all actually play. I think that makes a huge difference. And really enjoy your gear, and you're passionate about it. But who do you think is some of the up-and-comers to watch for?
God.
Because I can't think of anybody.
That really. I mean, it was weird this year. So PB Nation did a post, didn't they, saying, marker of the year. Okay. And it was, if you look at what's actually come out in 2019, there wasn't anything. I mean, I don't think there was anything new in 2019. People keep saying, I mean, people have said it. I mean, you've been playing since
1989.
Okay, so you've been playing a while. You've got a couple of years on your belt, right? So, I mean, I started playing in '86, right? So when I went to the first, a Splatmaster, and then all of a sudden, you go to an event and people are using pump guns, and you go, oh my God, this is amazing. It's never going to get any better than this. And then suddenly someone invents a semi-auto, and then you sort of go, okay, this is now quite good. And then it gets better, and then you go to an electronic, semi-auto, and the progression. And then since then, we've gone through quite a big level of refinery, and we've also gone through a level of consistency and quality of build. And reliability is basically what it is now, and that's something that we've always tried to model on. And I guess I don't know who's going to bring out the next new thing. Every now and again, we see something and we go, okay, and we try and do the next new thing all the time ourselves, and we always say, well, what is it? And the way that our build process goes is that we start building on day one, and then it goes click, 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 and eventually we have to say, right, we've got to stop now. And we've got to produce that product, even though the dial doesn't stop there. It actually keeps going, but that's going to the next model. But because we have to stop at some point, or we'll just be forever making anything. We would have gone from Splatmaster to where we are now without actually anything in between. So you can't do that. What could it be? I mean, we talk about ideas all the time, and I sort of go into. I'm one of the guys who says, "Oh, why don't we do this?" Because to me, it's like, well, of course we can do that. We can put man on the moon allegedly. So, and going to my design sort of with Jack and with Flash, who's the electronic side, and with Matt, and we talk about something, and they just sort of look at me and go, "You're an idiot. No, of course you can't do that." And I go, "Fair enough." So I walk off, go back to my office, and then 6 months later, it will have put a little seed in one of their heads, and then they'll be searching on some forum that's got nothing to do with paintball, and they'll see a product that then relates to this, to that, and then they invent something really cool, and I just claim it as being something I've come up with.
Well, of course,
nothing to do with me whatsoever, but that's what I'll say. And but I don't know who's bringing out the next new thing or what it could be. I mean, there's certain things we've talked about over the years, like do you know Rosie?
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, I sat down with Rosie years ago, and he had a meeting, and he had an idea. I'm not going to say what it is, just don't want to confidences.
Sure.
But he had an idea that it would make everybody have to change their paintball marker because it would be an advantage to have this thing. So we looked at him and said, "Oh, this is actually quite a good thing," but it just doesn't happen for whatever reasons, and also the community sometimes don't want you to change all of those things.
Right.
So, it's almost, oh, you're going to force us now to buy a whole new marker just so it can do X or Y or Z. The 50 cal, paintball. Was that an amazing thing, or was it, really badly thought out? In my opinion, 50 cal is amazing, but it was the marketing campaign that GI did at the time. Was bad because they pitched it at the sort of tournament player straight away. I don't know if you remember back then. We had a problem where all of a sudden they sort of launched this thing onto the market and said, this is going to be the next new thing. Everybody's going to shoot 50 cal. And it had these reasons. It was like, it's cheaper, it's easier to transport, the paint's better, it's blah, 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 it hurts less, all these different things, right? So we were like, oh no, we don't make a 50 cal. So literally we saw our sales, we're going up, drop, like off a cliff, okay? And all of a sudden nobody bought high-end markers. And the reason being was because everybody was now told the next new thing was going to be 50 cal. And this thing that I'm now going to spend $1,000+ on doesn't shoot 50 cal. So what we did, we invented our 50 cal drop-in kits for the Ego at the time. And all it was so we went, here's our 50 cal drop-in kit. If you buy the 68 cal Ego, and then down the line, you want to go 50 cal, you can put this drop-in kit in and you're away. And all of a sudden our sales just went back up because the confidence was there for people to go and buy a product that they could shoot there and then and still have the confidence to be able to go and be able to change it in the future. Right. So that was good for us. But then as it happens, 50 cal in the tournament scene sort of never really happened, did it? And it was sort of just a bit of a mess. So weird noise.
Pardon?
A really weird noise then. Okay. Zombies outside probably.
I have I live at the end of an airport, so a plane went over, but it wasn't that loud.
Okay,
so
maybe.
It could have been the plane going over. It was like a.
Yeah, I've got 2 young kids downstairs, so it could be the house could be on fire for all I know.
Fair enough.
So I don't know what's going to be the next new thing. I really haven't got a clue. I mean, we've talked about stuff, and we're planning. I mean, we're building stuff, and we're inventing stuff all the time, and we're not stopping. I mean, all my staff are now my office staff, or at least are all working from home now, and it was a case of what we're going to do. But the worksheet is huge, and we're talking about it every day. And it's like, oh, what about this? What about that? I'm going to test this. I'm going to test that, and from lots of different products, but I don't think we've got anything that I would class as the next new thing. I mean, it's we're not shooting laser beams that turn into paintballs just before they hit you.
Right.
So it's I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there with trying to do it, and it's harder and harder as well. I mean, the amount of when we set up to start selling paintball markers, we dipped our toe into it very, very gently to start with.
Yes.
The thing that broke Planet into the mass market was and a global name was our E-blade frames. So here's one I prepared earlier. There you go. You got your hand on it. There you go. That's it. So this bit at the bottom of that cocker is what we created. We created the E-blade frame. So I mean, we probably sort of at that point, that's it. We kept the Autocock relevant in the tournament world because it was dying because it was slow, but we kept it sort of going. We'd probably give it another couple of years life onto that market by creating that. So we've become like a household name. Everybody knew that our product was good and you could go and buy it. And then I forgot what we were even talking about now.
It's all good. I got to be honest. I absolutely love the E-blade frame.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've heard this like a gazillion times because there's so many E-blade frames out there now. But I would love a upgraded computer board so that the E-blades could be used in mechanical events, so you can actually set the speed a little easier and stuff. It's very difficult to find a decent E-blade boards nowadays. I know I think there's one called a Sky-Fi board, but they're few and far between. So
we get asked quite often if we'll remake the Cocker line, and the answer is no, we're not going to do it. I mean, we're just not. We make our own product. So the history of Planet is that when I started playing, and in 1991 when I first opened, we didn't first open. The first time I owned the paintball company. Me and a guy called Julian is my business partner, still is. Me and him bought an existing shop. It was called Manchester Paintball at the time. We opened Paintball Planet, and all we did, we played on a team called Banzai's.
Yes,
pretty successful in our.
They were successful. They're well known. I know exactly who they are.
And we were just fixing other people's bad products, really.
Right.
From all sorts of different things. We'd customize, we would tweak, we would change. I mean, Jack was the tinkerer. He was the Autocock sort of master, and he'd sit there all day with the trigger plates, smoothing them out and making them all polished and the right strength of springs and blah 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 blah, right? And he'd hone out all the little bits and make it all really good, and it worked well. And those were for us; they weren't for the public. Those were for us to use, because we were trying, you know,
you want to win.
Yeah, you listened on your podcast the other day. You were saying that back in the day, we were jerry rigging anything we could together to get that edge and to be the best we could be, and that's what we would go and do, and then eventually it got to the point where we said, right, you know, we're going to need to create our own product, or more of our own products, and that's when we did the E-blade frame, and you know, we kept that gun going, and then. I've remembered my point now. So then we jumped into our paintball first ever marker, which was the Ego, which was in sort of 2004, 2005. But this was back to your question about who's going to make the next new thing. You know, if it's in a paintball marker, it's so hard now to get the network of people involved. When we first did it in 2005, so 15 years ago, it wasn't really the done thing to have tech support everywhere. Where now we've got loads and loads of techs that either work for us or work in service centers for us all around the world, and they go to events and they support the players, and they'll sit there and they'll do it. And it's hard. I mean, like and I don't think this is talking bad of them, because I think they'll understand that the F1 guys, the Dynasty players, they were shooting Planet before they launched their own product.
Right.
And we knew about it months before it was public, because they're good guys. I like those guys.
Right. They really are.
Yeah, and they came to us and said, this is what we're planning on doing. This is a way of us securing our future after paintball as well. We've got an opportunity to do this when we're going to do it. And so, you know, they went with our blessing. Okay, and they haven't burnt the bridges like a lot.
No.
They're all good guys. I go and talk to them, and I'll shake their hands, and we'll get on well. All right. So when they first launched the F1, and they started to put tech support on in Europe, and they put on a little trestle table with a pop-up tent. And even that was for them. It's the undertaking to do that. It's difficult. You've got to pay for somebody's wages. You've got to fly somebody from America to Europe. You have to be in a hotel for 3 or 4 days. That's car hire, food, and you've got to sponsor the events if you want your markers to be used there, because it's locked in. And those things they cost money.
Yes.
So, if there's a guy out there who wants to create, the best ever paintball marker in his mind, it might not be the best ever paintball marker, but in his mind, and he wants to go start a company, if he's not got any funding behind him, he's going to find it very difficult. Because, and I'm not saying he shouldn't do it. I mean, we like competition. We're the sort of company that when another brand brings out a paintball marker, we look at it and go, that's really good. Can't believe they've done that. And then we sort of, and then it pushes us to do the next thing. And without that push, we just sit there and we'd still be on, the Ego 6 or 7 or whatever it was. But we've been pushed all the way along the line, and we push ourselves as well. So it is difficult. And I don't know how anybody these days would get into it. The only way they can do it and make money, the markers have to be thousands, literally thousands. I mean, you might get a company that does, full custom builds, $10,000 markers that are amazing, but then it breaks, and then what are you going to do if you're in, in Malaysia, or you're in, you're in Canada, or you're in England? There's only one tech that can fix it. Then that becomes a bit of a nightmare, doesn't it? Speaking
of new markers, I know you guys used to do a lot of Eclipse stuff on the old Automags.
Yeah,
I actually had, and this is just a little off topic, but we're two paintball lovers. I actually at Las Vegas, I had my hand on the new carbon fiber bodied Automag from Airgun Designs.
Right, I've not seen that.
No, well, I took a bunch of pictures, and it was supposed to be in this month's issue of Paintball Media, but it got postponed till next month because obviously with all the craziness, we got to have content for next month. So that got moved over. But they actually used Numec frame and special Numec rails, and there's an all custom fiber body, custom fiber grip, the custom fiber smart parts barrel, and it's light, and it's the level 10. holy smokes, was that thing cool.
Yeah.
I can't even begin to tell you how wicked it is. So if you get the chance, give Tim a call. Just because it's insane how nice this thing is. I mean, it's a limited run. It's not like what you make, which are like you have actual production markers, and it's not like the old pre-2005 Airgun designs where they had production. I think there's only gonna be like 20 of them so far. I mean, they may make extra bodies, but holy crap, that thing was awesome. So
so on that, I love the nostalgia thing that's going on at the moment. The sort of that old, the train. We like it, and we've sort of jumped on board with it as well. We do a lot in the mech world as well now. So I like all that. But I mean, we mentioned it before. One of the things that people always say to us is, if you say what's your best ever marker, people will still say, my Ego 9 is the best one I've ever shot, blah blah blah, and it's not. It isn't. We every time we make a new marker, we improve it. We don't just improve it from the user's point of view, which there always is improvements for the user.
Right.
There's reliability improvements, component parts improvements, build quality improvements. There's so many different improvements, and we sort of almost laugh at the. We don't laugh at them, but we sort of go, no, you're wrong. The 09 or the 07 or the whatever model it is nowhere near as good as this one. And I think with everybody's paintball, you've got it and I've got it. I can remember the time when I was, there was probably about 200-300 guys against me on my own, whatever it was, and I shot them all. That for me, that's the best ever marker that's ever existed. It wasn't the best ever marker. It just all the stars aligned that day, and every time I pulled my trigger was when that guy stuck his head out and and headbutted my paintball and his bounced off me or whatever it was. And we all have those memories about what's the best, but it's the memory of what's the best, isn't it? It's like we should never go and watch some of the really old sci-fi movies again because they're really bad, but our memory of them is amazing. I've started buying old DVDs again for me and my kids to watch because I've just done the whole Star Wars thing with them. We're in the middle of doing all of the Avenger movies and all that, in the right order. And and some of them I'm going, oh, this isn't good. I shouldn't have ever watched this again. And some of the markers like that, they're good for their memories, but that's where they should stay. And I'm not saying that's about the Automag, but that's one of the reasons why we won't do the Autocock again, because it's okay and it's nostalgic for some people, but it's not the best product. It's like buying a crappy old car that you might have lost your virginity in when you were a teenager or whatever. Yeah,
I've always compared autocockers to Harley Davidson motorcycles.
Yeah.
Because
you always have an oil leak.
Well, there's that. They just have a distinct sound and a distinct feel and a distinct look, which makes them cool. But there's always that you have to maintain it and you're constantly having to tweak it. And it's not like you can just fix it and it's there and it'll always run. It's not. But I mean, it's always cool. It always has that distinct sound to it. Like it's just, there's something about them that's awesome. But you're 100% right. There's a reason why at Chicago NXL last year it was a Planet Eclipse marker that was in my hands and not something older.
I mean, I was watching the podcast with Budor as well, and it was. Me and Bud go back. I mean, I've played on the War Game All Stars in France. They flew us over there to do all that sort of thing. Bud was there and his wife Kathy, and fantastic memories of that.
Yes.
And for me, there was. With the Autocock, we went through the electronics sort of age. So I was the first ever person to shoot an Angel in a tournament. I was sponsored by Smart Parts, and we shot the shoebox shockers. We then went to Impulses, and during all of that time, I kept going back to my cocker all the time. And in the end, it was when Charlie was there and Bud was, War Games, and I kept saying to them, just let me have a cocker. And they're like, okay, you can have one. And because at the time sponsorship was weird because Banzai sort of didn't break a mold, but we didn't go all out in one team. At one point we were sponsored, half the team was sponsored to shoot Smart Parts Impulses. We did a Planet one. And then the other half of the team was sponsored with Autocockers. So we had a bit of a mix in the team, which I don't think nobody really does anymore. Which is I won't allow it anyway. But you know, it was me. I always wanted to go back to my cocker because it was the memories. It was always that when you're missing that guy and you just and you can see a 3 inch of his loader sticking out and you go, why can't I hit it? Why can't I hit it? It just wasn't that day. The paint wasn't as accurate. I was, a bit more hungover than normal. And then you go out your bag. The next game, you get your cocker out, and he was just bang, done him. And it was like, and it was all just memories. And I always used to go back to my cocker. I used to love my cocker, but then times moved on, and it got to the point where I went, right, this has got to go in my bag now. And then we're going to go into something better. I mean, you were involved in the arms race. I'm sure it was like,
yeah.
West. I mean, there's no way the cocker could compete with that stuff. It was like cheater boards. It was like breakout mode. And I was on Nexus at the time when all that was happening. And we were,
magnets in the gloves.
Yeah, my players on Nexus would come to me because we were the manufacturer of the Ego, and they'd sort of go, we need cheat modes. And I'm like, you ain't gonna get them. I'm like, I'm not doing it. And we're getting blown to pieces off the break. My corner guy, I was back center at the time, so I was like, well, I can make my break, but I'm fine. And the guy's gone at the corner. They just said, I've got two blokes that are just full auto with me all the way into that corner, and I'm making it 20-30% at the time. And I'm like, right, okay. And it just got to the stage where it was ridiculous. I mean, they invented the robot to stop. I don't know if people know this. They made a device that you put the gun on, and it shot a certain amount of times, and that's how many balls had to come out. And then people would just destroy the robot for whatever reason. It'd be like, have you heard what's happened to the robot? No, someone smashed it with a hammer or something because it was catching them cheating. It was the Wild West. It was mental. And,
no, it was.
So that's why, and that was the death of the autococker, really. I think at that time it was time to move on at that point.
Honestly, I think the death of the autococker was the weight and the timing.
Yeah.
Like that, the E-Blade was such a fantastic invention because it really took away from having to tinker with the timing. You wouldn't short stroke it as easily because, as you know, because you used an autococker, you have to release the trigger fully and pull it and release it, and you have to get that into your system. And a lot of people just couldn't get that.
Yeah.
So you would actually have to time autocockers to your own personal playing style. Like mine tends to be a lot snappier than something of one of Caesar's supercockers, and those are I call them sloppy, and it's not an insult. It's just it's big and long, and it gets maximum performance out of each shot. But mine tend to be a little bit snappier and a lot shorter, just for my playing style. So the E-Blades, that suits my playing style. I had it so my magnets would go a little click so I could feel it. And yeah. So, before I forget, I keep looking down and I see this. What's on this side? I wanted to show you this.
Okay.
You have probably seen this many times. Do you know what this? Do you know what this is?
Yeah, Predator camo push.
Yeah, but this isn't anyone. This is actually Marcus's prototype.
Right.
This is the first one.
That's how the coronavirus has got into Canada, is it?
It very well could be. But yeah, I wanted to make sure that I mentioned this to you and showed it because Marcus was nice enough to send this to me. And I know you and Marcus are great friends. Yeah. And I'm super excited. Now, I
probably shot that mask a few times.
You probably have, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure I pointed it out, because I know how tight you and Marcus are, and I know this is probably going to get watched a lot in England and stuff, and I wanted everybody to know. So the agreement was I actually have to wear this in play.
Right.
can't sit on a shelf and it can't be sold. So it is going to be used on a regular basis. But yeah, this is the actual
well, I think this is the first run of the push in that camo, and I think get them now. It's more that's like it's more of a polished look, isn't it? It's sort of got a gloss finish on it. I think all the push goggles that are with that camo now are it's a bit more matte finish, I believe.
Yes,
I think so. Yeah, very rare.
Yeah. So, but that is the first one. It's still got Muke written inside of it and all sorts of stuff. So
nice.
Yeah, I had to make sure that this was out, and that's sort of what started this whole thing. Is I wanted to make sure that that got a little bit of play because I'm so excited to have that. And Marcus is such a great guy.
Yeah, he's good. He's very passionate about the sport. He's I mean, when I was growing up, when I was on when I started the Banzais, he was like, he was the king,
right?
Of world paintball almost. I mean, he was definitely the Preds were the biggest team in Europe, and then they competed very, very well in America as well. And
they did.
Yeah, and he's passionate, about the sport. He loves woods ball. He's super passionate about the classic, the 5.5. And I mean, I sponsor the Predators now with our M170s and 170s, and we do the Predator version of it. And the reason for me, it's all started off with when Marcus sort of came back. I approached him and sort of said, "Can I sponsor you personally?" He's like, "What are you on about?" And I said, "Well, I've always looked up to you as a captain, as a person. I thought you were a great tactician, and I always wanted to sort of replicate, them really. It was, I remember the first time we ever beat them. That's still a vivid memory in my mind. And it's and I sort of said, I've made you this gun, and we made him a gun, and I gave it to him, and I made him a few since then. And then eventually, we sort of came up with a deal for the team, because it's not the original team. You can have the name with Marcus and Bart there. It still feels super sort of nostalgic for me, and so I'm happy we sponsor them, and for the right reasons as well. They're a good bunch of guys, and it's they're good lads.
Well, that's the one thing about a paintball team, and I would argue that it's not the same team anymore. I would say it's still the same team because Marcus is still in charge.
Yeah.
Like he's still there, he's still playing, he's still the driving force. It still has that razor focus. But every single team out there, like the Toronto Maple Leafs, for example, players change, players evolve. People fall off for whatever reason, both good and bad, and move on. But the actual motivation and the actual focus and goals, I don't think those have changed at all. And I think as long as it's got Marcus at the helm, and as long as those goals are intact, I think that's still the same Predators. It's just the game changed, not the team, and he's bringing back the whole focus from what it always was with this new mechanical movement thing.
Yeah, for sure. He's when Marcus sort of came, this is his second coming really, because he went off the scene for a while,
right?
And then he came back. Well, it was very short-lived, and then he came sort of back again with a vengeance. Got all the guys back together, and yeah, he's almost sort of. I'm sure he'll admit this. He's pig-headed sometimes. He says this is how it should be, and it's sort of he sort of listens to everybody else. He's sort of he's got a bit older and a little bit wiser. I'm sure he'll tell you that. And but there's he wants it his way, and he's it has to be that goes from the team to what he thinks the format should be. And he's put his heart on his sleeve this year with. It's obviously what's happening with all the tournaments being cancelled is a shame.
Right.
He played the first UK Woodland Masters, which is you can play 10.5 ramping, electronic guns, whatever. And he played it as mechanical. So the whole two squads played mechanical. They came first and third in the Challengers division, which is because the pro or the pro division was locked from last year because they didn't play it last year. So he had to do that, and then but he beat everybody in front of him, and then he should have now been playing in the pro bracket, and that's good. You put your heart in your sleeve and say, no, actually, I believe in this, and instead of just moaning about it, he's gone and done something about it, and I've got
right.
So, and if he would have lost, then he would have lost, wouldn't he? But then he would have been playing against ramping guns, but he didn't. He went in out there and he won. So yeah, good on him. I like that.
Yeah, no, I can't say enough nice things about Marcus. I really can't. Obviously, this podcast happened because of my passion and my hard work, but I couldn't have gotten this far this fast if it wasn't for his input, his help, him actually being on my podcast. So I owe Marcus and so many other people, but especially Marcus, so much. When I look at my stats of who listens to my podcast, it's the United States first, obviously, because that's where most of the players are. And right below it is United Kingdom, and cool. Then Canada. So I have to give as much credit as possible as I can to him. And I wanted to make sure that I said that to you as well, because I know that you can go up to him and goes, Steve told me to give you a big sloppy kiss. And
not doing that.
Well, you can tell him.
Yeah. Backslap, maybe.
Yeah. So I know with all the craziness going on, everything is canceled. And I'm not going to say indefinitely, but everything's postponed. Do you come over to this side of the pond to play at all, or do you basically stay close to home these days?
This year was a bit of a plan to actually come and do a little bit more. So talking to Marcus, I committed to come and play the 10-man in New York, which would have been May.
Right.
Marcus asked me to come and play with the Predators, and I said I would. So that was going to be one event. I also wanted to do, we were talking about coming to do the a scenario game. We've done Oklahoma, the skirmish one,
right,
loads of times. I've really enjoyed that. And I wanted to start to come and do some of the big scenario sort of, bucket list stuff, like the Blues, the Castle.
Oh yeah, EMR.
Yeah, EMR. Yeah.
I love that field.
And it was supposed to be the last year of D-Day as well this year, wasn't it?
Yes, it was supposed to be.
So that was sort of a bit of a plan, but that's all now completely out the window. And then also, I've got a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, so
right,
the way is a little bit more difficult. Jack always goes to Full the Gap every year, but Full the Gap falls like usually the week before or after World Cup. And so if I'm sort of go to the missus and say, hi, I'm just going to go to Full the Gap for a week, and then straight after that I'm going to go to Florida for another week to for World Cup. And so I'll leave you with the kids for 2 weeks on your own. Is that all right? It's like, no, it's not all right. So yeah, it's getting a bit more difficult. I mean, the plan this year was to change it up a little bit, but I don't know. I mean, who knows what's going to happen now? I used to play World Cup whenever I came across. We'd always put a sandbagger team in. Last few years, they've done the UWL. The World Cup UWL. I've played that. I played that, right? We're winning the whole thing, and then I got a golf buggy comes along and said, Ledz, there's an industry meeting now, we need you. And I was in all my camo, and this was about 4 years ago, and I said, oh, okay. I went, lads, listen, we're winning this. All you have to do is not lose this last game. Well, okay. Goes off in the golf cart, come back for the meeting about an hour and a half, 2 hours later. They're like, you're right. You went, yeah, we came second. I went, oh my God, what do you mean you came second? I said, lose you for one game. They're like, yeah, we know. John Dressel will like that because I think he's like won that year instead. So, but
John Dresser is a hell of a player. Like,
yeah, he's good. Go on.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't get out to play as much as I can, as I'd like really in the States. I try. We did. We've got a trip booked for Poland / Germany later on in this year, so hopefully that'll still happen. That's October, which is the scenario big game, which we played last year and it was fantastic. So the Sandbaggers are going to go back out and play that. Really good venue, really good event. And I played the week before lockdown in the UK and played a game called War Machine, which was really good. mag-fed only. There's me, my brother, who doesn't play paintball, took him with me, and a couple of the sandbaggers, Stoney and Phil. And then, so I'm playing, and but it's sort of all over the place, but not as much in the States as I'd like.
Well, there's, excuse me, there's a couple games that I'm going to try to make myself, and they'll probably in the States. And if you can, come on over. I'm going to try to make Monte Casino. They've postponed it till July. Okay. And that is a big game where historically Bud Orr and Dan Colby of Air America / Immortal Air, they do the captain. And it's a few hundred people, and it's a very old school, not a lot of bells and whistles, but it's all about the fun of it. And I've been invited to play with that, and so I'm going to try to make that. But you should come check that one out. And then I'm going to try to go to California for Richard Wilcox's cancer event.
Okay.
Have you heard about the worldwide cancer event that he's trying to get along? Yeah. Well, I'm going to try to make that. So if you get the chance, come on over for those.
Okay. I mean, the wife's almost starting to look at Florida now, going, okay, so you go to Florida, is that how close to Disney is that? I'm like, okay.
Right.
So, I mean, California she can go off and do some stuff there as well, can't she? So
absolutely.
Maybe when the planes start flying again.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But it's been postponed, and we got to look on the bright side of things, because eventually all this craziness will stop.
Yeah.
Like, is it horrible now? Yes. But on the flip side of that, this is definitely a lot better than England in the early 40s, because things aren't dropping on our heads every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I had all these great questions, but we've been talking so much, it's just all gone.
All right.
Now, do you have any questions, just for curiosity, do you have any questions for me? Or I know that sounds silly, but I mean, I talk to a lot of people. I'm sure you do too, but
no, it was weird. There was I was talking to my wife about coming on to this today, and she's like, "Oh, okay, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm doing this, doing that," and I was like, "Okay," because I had to close my door because the kids are downstairs,
right?
And because I'm working at home at the moment, so there's and she was sort of saying no, and she said, and the other day she popped in my office when I was watching your other podcast, and she said, "Who are these people?" And that's when Rosa was on there and stuff.
Right.
And I was like, I don't really know. And obviously I know you. And then obviously as I'm watching it, you get to know who these people are. And it's always interesting for me to sort of see there's almost another world of paintball underneath the world that I probably more associated with. Some of these people that I don't know are leaders in their field. They'll have a chapter of a scenario team that they'll have hundreds of people involved in it, and there'll be can't remember the other lady that was on with Rosa. She's opening Melanie. She's doing a clothing line.
Yes.
So and I mean that's the sort of thing that if I don't watch your podcast, I would never at all know that there's this other world out there that she's sort of people are going, well, I'm going to start she called it a passion project. She's going to start her own passion project, and she's going to go and do a clothing line.
That clothing line, by the way, just so that our listeners and viewers are going to know, that's not just her. That's also Mike Goodeve, and Mike Goodeve is a scenario producer. So I'm not gonna. It's a conglomeration of a few different people, but they do the Jedi game out in Wisconsin, I think, Illinois. Wisconsin. I get very confused because the thing I love about doing is I love trying to go out and find all these fun stories, whether they're as big as you or if they're like Rosa, who is only been playing for a year and is practically unknown. But I will bet you that within 2-3 years, Rosa is going to be one of the better known female players in the game. I just know it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying about the people that are involved in paintball is that in 3 years' time, I mean, hopefully I'll still be here doing my thing. But
Right.
there are people. So I've started playing MagFed now, okay? And
Right.
I go to the MagFed world, and certain people look at me like, you know, what you're doing in our world. This is our world. This isn't your world. But I mean, and now because the first time I went and played MagFed, we hadn't created a product at that time. I was using our product in secret, but I was there. So the people some people knew me, some people don't know me, and
Right.
people don't know me now. I'm not like walking around thinking, they don't carry me on a cart saying this is Ledz, bow in front of him. No, don't. You don't have to. It's all right. So it's weird to go to these different people's words. So it might be that Rosa's the queen of MagFed in 2 years' time, and me and her might turn up in an Uber at a paintball venue, and everyone will be like, Rosa signed this, or can I have my photograph? And I mean, World Cup, okay, so this has happened more than one occasion. So we're in the Planet Eclipse booth, and a lot of the pro guys that we sponsor, and I know some of them pretty well, have played against all sorts of stuff, and they'll come in, and this is there's one guy came in, I can't remember who it was, it might have been Nick Sloviak actually, I'm not sure, but anyway, me and Nick are talking, and this guy comes in, he starts talking, he goes, oh, excuse me, so he talks to me, he said, is it okay if I get a picture? So I'm thinking he wants a picture with me, right? And I said, of course you can, no problem. So he gave me the camera and then went and stood next to Nick Sloviak so I could take the picture of him and Nick Sloviak. And I sort of like embarrassingly went, oh, no problem, smile, click, his camera back. And I sort of go, oh, Ledz, you're just nobody. Absolutely, But it's funny because he came to me, but it's happened more than once. And I don't mind that. I mean, sometimes it's nice to be anonymous and sort of just.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Your thing. When I get in the pits, every year when we played World Cup, it was lovely to get. We used to play in like one of the lower divisions at World Cup, and we'd go in and you'd have this thing where they'd have about 6 or 8 teams in one pit, and you'd all just play against each other for that sort of 2-3 hour bracket. And by the end of it, we were loaning our guns out and helping people, and you'd know them, and then for years to come, those teams just pop into our booth now and just say hi. They don't necessarily shoot my guns or wear my gear, but they come in and say, hi, how you doing? Nice to see you again, have a quick chit chat, and then off they go. And I love that. But there's a lot of other people I can just walk past and I'm just a nobody. And to get back to your thing that you're asking about, things to ask you is just no. I just think it's cool what you're doing, and I think it's great to see these people from all around the world and different people in different sectors of the sport that are unknown to me, really. So
right,
good. I like it. Carry on.
Well, thank you so much. I do try. Right. And it's that's how I found out about the Ally Remembered Foundation as well. I don't know if you followed along with that, but you're going to be seeing that a lot more. Have you heard about that? Or
only from probably your podcast, really, and stuff.
Right. Well, yeah. So that all started out was I had talked to David Weasel Cook of the OG Ironman, and I talked to Marcus, and Marcus referred me to Richard Wilcox, who was the old Dogs of War captain and the guy doing the cancer benefit. But Andy Starrett, he had reached out to, I think I know what team it is, but I'm not going to call them out. He'd reached out to a couple teams, pro teams in California to try to get some help for some kids who were having a rough go in life. And he was just looking for like maybe a little swag, or not, like he wasn't looking for anything big. Just, can you sign a T-shirt or something along that lines? What can you do to help? And they didn't respond, unfortunately. I don't know why. Everybody has their reasons. But the OG Ironman found out about it. Well, the OG Ironman were talking with Richard Wilcox. Richard reached out to me and said, this is going on in Denver. This is a cool story. And so I reached out, and it became one of the best friendships. Like I love Andy and the guys and the Denver Expendables and the Ally Remember Foundation. And so it's amazing how that all daisy chains. And I really think that, sorry, my head just sort of skipped. I think the point where I was trying to go, and I just botched it badly. I want to sound intelligent. I want to sound professional. How we all set aside a lot of the silly things, and we just try to all lift each other up, which is me leading to thanking you very much for being on the podcast, because you being here is a huge honor to me. So thank you. I know I just did the worst lead-in ever, but it is what it is.
I mean, when you reached out to me and I said, Marcus sort of reached out to me and then we exchanged sort of thing.
Right.
And I mean, it's when people want to talk to me, I'm like, yeah, I'm an open book. I've been playing paintball for a long time. Some people will care about the history of Planet or about, I played professionally and now play for fun. I play MagFed, I play scenario, I play big game, I do whatever. I play paintball. I'm a paintballer.
Right.
I've been a paintballer since I was 16. I'm 50 in about 3 weeks. So got there. Well, not yet, but when I get there, and it's an honour that people want to have a chit chat with me, really, and I don't mind at all. It's especially these days. I'm sat here doing nothing. I've been writing down. I'm doing some. I do a podcast myself.
I was just about to ask you about that. Do you do it like now? How do people find your podcast? Because I've gone looking for it a couple times, and I wasn't able to find it. I know it exists. I think there was like 6-7 episodes when I was looking for it. I don't know how many are out now, and how do we find it?
I don't know. No, okay. So I think it's on SoundCloud.
Okay.
Right, there's a reason Al's been Al works for me. He's my social media guru.
Okay.
He probably does it all. I do the actual interviewing of people, and it started. I mean, it started off as just sort of my friends, really. I started. We had I'd got a couple of lav mics and we'd go and sit in the pub. I've done one in a Greek restaurant when we were in Poland, that sort of thing. So I've done them all over the place. And then now it's got to the point where I still talk to people that I've got quite a close connection with, because I just sort of feel like I can chat about, the old stories come out, don't they? And you just start talking about the old time. If I sort of suddenly ping somebody who was famous in paintball, but I don't know who they are, I think I'd probably struggle with it a little bit. It'd be a bit like, what? You
mean sort of like me not knowing you? And
well, no, this has flowed pretty well because it's fucking paintball. But sometimes if you're interviewing somebody, you've got things you can ask me, and I've got things that I can respond. But if I was talking to you, and we didn't have a history with each other, I'd sort of go, it'd be no good if I've got my question right. Question number 1 is, what's your full name and blah blah blah. Question, and it doesn't work. For me, it's all just about a bit of a chit chat, and they end up being quite long. So like I've done, one of them was a good 2.5 hours long, and it was it's not visual, it's just audio.
Right.
It's something to stick on in your car. People seem to like them, and it's I've got a bit of a my chit chat's okay. So but yeah, SoundCloud. It's called the Zero Edit Podcast. Should we do some sort of thing where I look?
Okay, you want to do so? Let me see 1 second here. So it's called the Zero Edit Podcast, you said?
Yeah.
Zero Edit. Hopefully I got my spelling done right.
This is good TV, isn't it?
So like that?
Yeah. So let's see what it comes up with. Oh God. Oh, there you go. Yeah, the Zero Edit Podcast. There you go. Look at that on SoundCloud. Yeah. So if you just type in the Zero Edit Podcast, or in SoundCloud, you can type in Planet minus or hash Eclipse, and it comes up as well. Yeah, there's a few up there. So yeah, he's only put 5 up there, I think. Oh, but there's a few. Yeah, there's a load up there. Yeah, jump on, have a look.
I definitely will.
I mean, it's literally just me sat at home having a bit of a chit chat, or there's a couple of when we went to Poland, I did a couple of the Sandbagger guys, just sort of talking about the history and about what we're about, and just talking rubbish really. And then I sort of, I suppose was he called Dennis Pennis? The guy who interviewed people was just a bit of a douche, right? It was almost like, I'll just ask, I don't mind asking the hard questions, and that's how it started at Planet. And then as it goes on, you don't really want to ask those hard questions because you end up talking to the person. You actually know the hard, so you don't want to go, how come you're this or that? And you sort of end up not doing it. So there's a few people on my list to interview that in the end I just went, I just don't want to interview those because I don't really like them as a person. I don't know why I want to give them any airtime. So I kept it to people I know. And I was talking this morning. I've got who've I got coming up. I've done. I'm going to do Ash Chappell, who works at GI Sports, and he was Nexus in the day from the UK. I want to do Tommy Webb, who currently plays for 1for1 / Jags. Nice guy, local, really cool guy. So stuff like that. And it's literally just having a chit chat, really.
I completely understand. That's my whole podcast.
Yeah. So it's there's no agenda. I ask some quick fire questions. I ask him who the biggest cheat in the world is and all that sort of stuff, and what the favorite cheese is, and then we sort of go from there really. But the reason it's called Zero Edit is literally I press record, we go, and then we go click, and then I just give it to to Al, and he goes, right, done, there you go, it's live, and because we're quite busy, so he didn't want me to give him this thing where I went, oh, can you just chop out, between 1 minute and 5 and 2 minutes, get rid of that, and he's like, no chance, I'm just going to put it up. So.
Well, I have to be honest, I try to edit as little as humanly possible, and I do that on purpose because I honestly feel that once you start editing things and you take out the ums and you take out the when you do that, it takes away from the personality and the realness. So I love the fact that you're not editing as well. I mean, I've had a few people say, Steve, I beg your pardon?
You're doing it for one reason. We're doing it because we're lazy. But,
well, you know what? There's a bit of that is there as well. But regardless of why, I think it makes it better myself because I think it becomes real. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Well, I have run out of questions that I need to ask you or want to ask you. I shouldn't say I want to. I mean, I want to hog you for like the rest of the day. But I know that you have a couple things you have to do.
Well, you've got a little bit of time if you want.
All right. So back to your podcast then for a second. And this is sort of me showing off, but sort of me just talking shop. Why did you choose SoundCloud? Or just because that's what the guy said?
I don't choose any of that stuff. I just go, should we do a podcast? Go, yeah. And I'm going to buy a lav mic. And that was about as much information as we did. I don't know why I chose SoundCloud. I think there was a reason. But I think the idea was that he's going to port over to somewhere else. But it was, you have to get a certain amount of content up somewhere. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Well, I know I pay for a provider called Libsyn, and they give me a whole lot of stats. And I don't know if you saw this on my group page the other day, but I'm going to put up a map here for a second. It's going to cover over everything. But this is everywhere that people download and listen to my podcast around the world. I looked at that the other day and it completely blew my mind.
Brilliant.
How awesome is that?
Yeah.
And yet people don't know who I am, which is just perfectly good with me. Just like how you were talking before.
Around the, I mean, I think we all know that this game that we play is so much more than just shooting guns at each other. It's it just envelops your life, and it becomes it is your lifestyle, and it is, I mean, everything that you do, breathe, think, talk about is paintball. And it's been like that for me for a long time, and it's and I'm still super passionate about it now. I mean, I formed, when I left Nexus, I started a new team called Sandbaggers. Now, the reason we called Sandbaggers is that at the time, we were all pro players, and we all finished playing pro, and we said, right, let's just go. we need an excuse to go and play together, right? So so we said, let's play the lowest division that we're allowed to play in any tournament. And we've probably played decent tournaments. We played in the Millennium Series at the time, which is now NXL Europe. But if they let us play in Division 3, we'd play Division 3. If they said it's 2, we'd play in Division 2. And so that's why we called Sandbags. And it was only really supposed to be for 1 or 2 events, and that was like 10 years ago. And now we're called Sandbags, and we do all right. And we've got loads of different people on the squad. And for me, it's all about, sometimes we all get there, and we'll all go to the bar, and we'll all have a good drink, and we'll all, these campfire stories come out about how good we all are at paintball, or how bad we are, or how bad he is, and how bad they are. And then eventually someone will go, we have to go and play paintball now. And we go, oh, do we have to? And it's almost like, well, yeah, because if we didn't have paintball, we wouldn't all be here talking all these stories. We'd all be sat at home being bored and playing computer games or whatever, which I like.
Right.
Out of the house every now and again, so we sort of went, it's about so much more than paintball. Is about so much more than just a game. It's just about creating memories, creating friends, and the lifestyle that we've created. And I'm super, super, super fortunate that I've managed to make a career out of it as well. I feel very, very lucky that I get up in the morning and my job is paintball.
Right. I'm doing my absolute best to try to do that, but in a different way.
Yeah. What you're doing is difficult. It's to monetize, a podcast is, it takes time. We've been online for an hour and 25 now, and if you were getting paid on an hourly rate, you'd have, some money in your pocket, but we're not. So it's you sort of just doing it, aren't you? And it's people come and knock on my door all the time and saying, well, can you help this and can you help that? And there's only so much, I know you work with Paintball Media and we support those guys,
right?
And I try and support as many people as can because I'm not, I don't come from an educated background. I don't come from money. I started Planet Eclipse one Friday night in the bath at home. I phoned up the bank and said, I need a bank loan. I had one of these big cordless phones, sat in the bath at home at my parents' house. I lived at home in my parents' till I was 30. So I started Planet Eclipse when I was 21. And I sat in the bath and I was going out with my friends, and they weren't there in the bath. It was just me. And I phoned up the bank at night and I said, I want to get a car loan for £5,000. And they went through a load of questions and they authorized it straight away over the phone. So I put the phone down and I said, right, I'm going to start my own business and in paintball. And a little bit more complicated story than that, but that'll do.
But just to summarize, Planet Eclipse started with you being hot, wet, and naked.
Yeah. Well, yeah. all my best work is when I'm hot, wet, and naked. So and then I came out and I was living with my parents. I was 21 at the time, and I said to them, right, we bought an existing company. So I said, I'm going to buy it, and it's going to cost me £10,000, which would be split between me and Julian. And I said, all right, I've got a bank loan. I know that I've been pre-authorized for a loan I said it was a car, but it was just a case of, can I get a loan for £5,000? I had zero money.
Right.
My dad said, well, don't do that. I'll give you the money. So Dad gave me the money. And if he was on here now, he would tell you, he still doesn't think I've got a proper business. It's quite funny. My dad's, I love my dad to bits. And he used to be a mechanic, and he had a small mechanics garage. It was his own, and he sold it. But probably at the height of business, he probably had 6-7 employees, and he still thinks that I'm just messing around in this sort of paintball world and not really sort of doing anything, which is strange. Anyway, so he gave me the money, and he said to me, and eventually I paid it him back with interest. And he said to me, I never thought I'd see that again. I thought that you were going to go and start a business, and 12 months later it'd be closed and you'd move on to something else. And I'm lucky that it's worked out. We started in a recession. So money was always difficult, and we've always reinvested in the business. We're not, me and Julian, I do all right for myself. I've not got Porsche and Lamborghinis on the drive, you know.
No, that's Jack with the Porsche.
But you know, I have a mortgage on my house that I still have to pay off every month, so I've got bills to make, like the same as everybody else. And you know, people think I'm, you know, a bazillionaire, but I do okay. You know, I've got a good job, enjoy it, and passionate about it. You know, so that's quite nice. So it's
yeah,
right.
no,
Lucky man, and I hope it works out for you as well. I mean, it's
well, maybe if I schmooze with a few more industry leaders, you know,
yeah.
maybe I just need to meet the right industry leaders. Honestly, though, I have a theory about this, and Marcus and I have actually had this talk a couple times. And one of the things that I absolutely despise about paintball, and I think it's the only thing that I hate, really, is that we have this culture where everybody puts their hands out and expects to get stuff from the companies for free. And I don't need you don't need to comment on that, because I don't want you getting in any trouble. And I don't think that's fair to the industry leaders like yourself for all these players that have their hand out. There's a podcast that I used to listen to back when I was working at the factory, and he was mostly a scenario player, and he was always complaining about how industry people don't pay attention to the scenario players because they're better athletes and they're this and they're that and they're the majority and blah, 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 blah. And he didn't like how he couldn't get sponsorship. Well, as we discussed earlier, sponsorship has changed from what it was like in the 90s and now. It's just completely different animals. And I believe it was changes that had to be made, and I agree with everything you say. But regardless of whether or not it's free stuff or a discount or whatever it is, at the end of the day, there are people like you that actually own the businesses. And so when you help out a player, you're giving away your stuff. And I wouldn't want that. Like, I mean, everybody wants free stuff. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a business for you. And when you give things out, you have to get stuff in return. There has to be value for what you're doing. Like, the definition of a good deal is when both parties walk away happy. And if you're helping somebody that's in need, or like when you talked about how you sponsor the UK Predators, because you and Marcus, like, you're both coming away really, really happy about the organization, and that's great. But for somebody like me, if I was to say, hey, I want free stuff, and you'd be like, well, what can you do for me? And I actually have people asking for me to sponsor them as well. And I can say, well, you can use my logo all you want, but I have nothing to give. Yeah. So I really don't like that mentality in the paintball community as a general rule, where there's so many players out there that are saying, give me my stuff for free. And because you really have to give something back. And I think that that's an important thing that most people need to hear. And I feel bad for you on a personal level, because you like all these people, you have all these friends, and you want to get to know as many people as you can, because you obviously love this sport as much, if not more, than I do. And you never know if somebody's gonna be like, can I have a free gun, or can I have a free whatever? And I hate that. And I've seen so many players do that to so many people. Well, heck, they do it to me too, and I'm like, lip. So yeah, that's just one of the things I'm not a fan of.
I mean, there's loads of it. I like a bit of a good analogy, and there's loads of ones that you can talk about with, you know, if you're ordering Domino's pizza every night, you know, you don't then phone up Domino's and say, I only eat Domino's pizza, can I have it for free from now on? Well, actually, no. I mean, I'm here to sort of sell you Domino's pizza, so, you know, carry on sort of doing that. I mean, the reason that the lion's share of any sponsorship goes to the professional teams is because it's the absolute pinnacle of our pyramid. You know, if you play scenario paintball or or Woodlands paintball, or big games, or just walk-ons, whatever you play. Yes, you're in the pyramid, but all of the, the airball is so much easier to film and to sort of to create it into this spectacle, and it can be on TV, and it can show, showcase the sport. And yes, you might be showcasing your sport a little bit in your big game or down at your local field, and I think that's all good. And for me, it all becomes. I'd love to be able to support everybody.
Yes.
I'd love to be able to do that. Okay, but I can't afford to do that. I've got staff I've got to pay, and we have to do R&D and all of these things, and
right.
it costs a lot of money. And we try. I mean, when we entered into the MagFed world, I took a conscious decision at that point to sort of go, right, I need to embed myself into this world a little bit better. So I'm going to go off and going to find some people to support. Now, what we did, we ended up throwing a post out there on PB Nation, I think, or wherever, and sort of said, tell us who your best, mag fedders are. And what I was looking for was people who created content. So we ended up, we now sponsor, we have a program, we call them our Immortals. And they're people who go and, shoot our products. And they create content. You've got people like Artwood from the UK, Led Farmer from Canada. You've got Zombie Girl from California. We've got people that are on our list that are going out there and creating regular content and putting it up there and exposing our sport to the masses, to not just to within. I get it all the time. Please sponsor us. What we'll do is we'll put you a link on our Facebook page, and we'll also put your company banner name on our banner. I said, okay, that's nice, and thank you for doing that. But what are you expecting from sponsorship? And they're going, well, sort of, 7 free guns or whatever. I'm like, I'm not going to give you 7 free guns. You're mental. Where with these the Immortal guys that we've got that we're running, there's 5 or 6 of them. They're on the Planet Eclipse page. You can go, if you click on the planeteclipse.com and then you click on team, there's a bit that says Immortals. You can go on there and you can see what those guys are up to, and they're creating content for us, or not for us, for themselves, and they're using our product. So I'm going, right. Brilliant. You're using our product. You're going out there, and literally, if you read my, I don't have this 20-page document that they have to sign. I basically just say, go on there, do what you're doing already, and just don't be a dick. And I'm like, that's pretty much my rules, just carry on what you're doing. And then they always ask you questions, can I do this, can I do that? And I'm going, well, I'd rather you didn't do that. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't want you, they almost think that I'm going to change them. It isn't about me changing them. It's about me saying, right, here's some of my product, go off and use it. Right. And I get great feedback off those guys. And the Artwood guy, Craig, he's in the UK. And I think I found one of his videos and then I contacted him and he's like, oh my God, I'm so amazed that, you contact me. And then you basically just say, well, can I send you a product for you to try? And he's like, yes, please send me it. And then I see him now and he's a bit of a buddy now. And, we'll meet him in the pub and we'll have a chat. And then, when we get like the CF mags that come out for our continuous feed magazines for the MagFed, he'll get some and then I'll expect him to then, well, I don't even expect him. He will, because it's what he does. He'll do a review of them and he'll do a little video and he'll go and shoot them and go, using the new CF mags today and the blah, 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 blah. And that is exactly what I want. If you just come to me and say, can you give me sponsorship? I'm going to go, no, it doesn't work like that. Life's not simple.
You have to put work in, and you have to give value for. Yeah, no, I totally get it, and I totally understand. Yeah. No, it's so yeah. One of my few sponsors is Push, which is one of why I have made sure I have them here. And then I've been talking a lot with Dan Colby, so I made sure.
And what?
Yeah. So, but
it's difficult. It's just difficult, and it's there's only so many sort of dollars as well. I mean, there's different ways to skin cats these days, you know, with crowdfunding and this and that.
Right.
But people, I mean, I'm sure that people will tell you, hundreds of people will tell you how amazing your podcast is and how that it, you know, it enhances their life. But then they probably won't give you $1 or $5 or, you know, you see these people doing, you know, Patreon or,
Yep.
you know, that sort of thing. And there are a few people that have done that and they get nothing. And,
Yep.
and it, because it's there's so much free content out there as well. And it's almost like, and I also think people pitch stuff at the wrong price point. You know, when I hear of people say, I'm going to do, I don't know, let's say a Patreon of $7, $8, $10, whatever it is, right? Doesn't matter. I always end up pitching it back to like, well, my Netflix is only costing me that much, you know, and I get, you know, I can get a pretty amazing product for that. And then you know, I'm sort of going, do I want to give this guy, you know, $7 or $8, $9, $10 a month, whatever it happens to be? And is it worth me doing it? It's worth it if I get pleasure and time, you know, and I want to invest my time into it. I don't want to just give money to people just because I think it's a good cause. I want to give money to people because it's good.
Right. Well, I do have a Patreon account.
Okay. Well,
and I have exactly one person, and that would be Nikki T.
Really? Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have one person supporting me, but I don't really push it a lot because I'm really working to improve, and I don't think I'm quite there yet. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've come a long way in 1 year from when I just started with, like, I had just had like a gamer headset mic, and I had a 9-year-old computer, and it just, for what I had, I did fantastic. And just through sheer perseverance, I just kept trying and getting more and more. And so now I have a nicer computer. It's not as strong as I'd like, but it's definitely much better. And now I'm doing video stuff. And did you ever see the my first video episode where I used an old, or I found I found this at a pawn shop for $40.
No, turn it sideways.
Sorry, it's a TAC 1 Automag.
Nice.
Yeah, I found it for $40, and so I did a little 15-minute video because I just wanted to try, because I'm just trying to teach myself, and I did it on an old Samsung phone, and I didn't have a stand or anything, so I actually went to Home Depot and I put some parts together and a little tripod I got from the dollar store. And I just jury-rigged this thing, and it's horrible. Like, flat out, it's horrible. But I still like it, and I get a lot of compliments, and it's one of my most watched things on YouTube. Not that I have a lot, but I'm working on it. But I think we'll have to build from. Anyway, yeah. So I have a Patreon account. I don't push it much.
Well, I mean, get it up. You should be scrolling at the bottom of your screen now. Here.
You know what? I really should be. Okay. 1 second. Hold on. So this is going to be more for audio than anything, like this podcast, but I am putting it on YouTube as well. So
it's I see so many people try and do things, and I see them sort of fail, and it depends why you want to do it. You know, it's if you want it, you got to put more than that on.
No, I'm just doing it as a joke.
Got to put the link on, or you know, they go to whatever it is.
Yeah, but I'm in the middle of an interview. I'm not gonna wreck the interview just because, you know, that just wrecks the quality of the whole show.
Yeah, but I mean, anybody who's out there who's looking for sponsorship, I mean, if that be somebody who's doing a podcast or, you know, doing whatever, if you come knocking on my door, you've got to sell me something. You know,
right.
you've got to give me you know, an extra slice of pizza with my Domino's, you know, whatever. You know, if you just want money to make it happen, the chances are it's just not gonna fly, because I mean, the money in paintball, the surplus money has definitely gone away, and we're all, I'm plowing money into sort of R&D and staff, and everything's sort of harder, and it's and I mean I was making, the money I'm making back then, 10, 15 years ago. That was when I was just making one gun, the Ego. So now I've got so many different lines. I mean, I've got, mech guns, I've got sight rental guns, I've got mag-fed guns, and I've got high-end guns and mid-range guns, and all of those are in different segments. So there's a lot of product that we produce to try and keep the money flowing. I mean, we've got offices in, Germany, in Rhode Island, in Taiwan, and in England, and they're all staffed, they're all paid for, and they're all, and it's like, and it's hard, and then then all of a sudden Google will turn off their, algorithms, so we can't advertise paintball on Google anymore. And then, then so and so will happen, and everything's just harder and harder. And everybody's trying to make their money and monetize their channels in so many different ways. And, you could literally sit there and just be doing this all day long, spending money to advertise on all these different platforms. And for sometimes you just don't know what the reason is. You just know you're doing it. And I always, like with sponsorship, I always sort of think about, you ever watch Lost?
No, I know of it, but no, it's not something that I watch. It was too confusing, and I just.
Well, there's a part of Lost which you might know about because it's pretty. It was ran for quite a few of the seasons. Was that every 77 minutes or whatever it was, they had to type in a sequence of numbers into a computer, right? Okay. So they had to end up putting in like shifts, so every 70 something minutes it was, I think, and they didn't know why. No idea why. Okay, but they just knew, or they thought that if they didn't do that, something bad would happen. So for me, that's sponsorship, because Planet Eclipse is doing pretty well in the sort of in the paintball world, and one of the things that we do is sponsor teams and support events and all of and advertise on paintball media and in the paintball magazine and stuff like that. So that's my 77 minutes of Lost, is that if I stop doing this, is the whole world, my world, going to collapse around me, or is it not? Or do I suddenly find that I save myself 50 grand a month by not doing it? And we don't know. So you just sort of carry on, sort of going, I'll just carry on doing this,
Well, on the flip side of that, though, while I understand with the sponsorship part of it, but I think that with you putting money back into the community, I don't think it would cause the community to fold, but I think that I'm looking for the proper words. Please forgive me. I think that because you can contribute to the community, I think that people hold you in higher regard. I'm not sure if that's the right word I'm looking for, but it's like a connection to it, like you do so much for us, and you know what, you're great people, and it just I think it just builds sort of like a symbiotic relationship, maybe. I'm not sure.
We don't know. I mean, we try and when we've always come across, and I've been told this several times, we try and become Switzerland, right? So we're neutral, right? We don't really pick fights with anybody. We like everybody. Like when we did the EMG 100, okay? We put Dymags in with the packaging. So suddenly people are like, "Well, hold on, don't you hate those guys?" I'm like, "No, they've made a really good magazine. And instead of me going off and developing one, I'm just going to buy this off them. So I give them my money. They give me a product. I put it into my package."
Right.
And we do that with, we make packs, HK make our packs for us. And, so things like that, we're trying to be Switzerland. So we don't try and sort of grind any axes. A lot of the other companies do grind axes with other companies. Okay. And I get that. Sort of get it. But we don't try and do that. We try and sort of be as neutral as we can, because life's a bit too short, and it's like, we try and help everybody and try and be nice. I don't think we're the horrible, scary, people.
No.
I think, we spend a lot of money and a lot of effort to make sure our customer support is bang on, on the nail where we can. We don't get it right every time. And when you raise your bar on customer service, people raise that bar even higher, and sometimes we can't meet that bar. They might have a 5-year-old gun that we suddenly want to know why they've got to pay for a part. And I'm like, well, if you had a 5-year-old car and drove it into a tree, would you just drive it down to your dealership and ask for a new car? Well, you wouldn't. You'd go, oh, I've drove it into a tree. I need to go and buy a new bumper or a new engine or whatever it is. And we try to do that, but we can't afford to just fix people, markers for forever and ever and ever and a day.
I actually experienced that firsthand with my E-Tech 4 at Chicago last year. I had bought it. Everybody was telling me that I'd probably blown a solenoid. I reached out to your technical support, which was fantastic, online, and I got given a bunch of steps to try, and I can't thank them enough. And so I tweaked it, and I got it basically working the way I wanted, but I didn't trust it. I didn't want it. I didn't think it was right. So I showed up for Chicago on the Thursday when everything was quiet, and I made sure I got to the field very, very early. And I took my Ego to the tech, or not my Ego, sorry, my E-Tech, the E-Tech 4, because it's a bit older. And I mean, it's a lower end. Well, not lower end. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I took it to them, and they kind of rolled their eyes a little bit, which I get and I understand. And in no way, shape, or form am I putting them down for that. But they went through it. They tested the air. They made sure all the regs were set to the way they needed to, and they handed it back to me. Now, they set the timing so that it was set, or not the timing, but they set the code so that it was set so that I could use it on the turn without having to change anything. After that, I went to Fox Paintball, which was outside of Chicago, and I was with Destiny, and it wasn't shooting right, and I was a little disappointed, but I came to terms with what you're telling me is that you can't automatically expect everything to work great. So I spent some time teching, and after that, the gun just shot amazing. But if it wasn't for you guys having those techs there to begin with to tell me that at least it's good, everything's working fine, there's no leaks, at least it gave me at least a platform to help get me to the next level. And so I really appreciate the tech support that you guys are giving. So I firsthand have experience with your techs, and I thank you all. I mean, I could have done without the eye roll when they saw an older gun. I mean, that was...
Well, I mean, I'll tell you why. I mean, yeah, obviously an eye roll is not good, but I'll tell you why we do this.
Yeah.
So online, it's probably either Fish or Jerry probably sorted you out online. Fish works with me in England, Jerry in the States. And then down at the events, what we have to do every year is, because our spares boxes are huge. I mean, we send pallets of these spares, okay? Because we have to have every little trinket for every gun, okay? So every year what we do is we go, right, we're now not going to support these guns, yeah? And so there are lots of parts that cross over between different models. So an NBR 70 O-ring might fit on 10 different models of gun, because it's an O-ring that fits, and we try and make our life simple. So we'll take those. So if you come into our booth with a really old gun, right, that just needs an NBR 70 replacing in it, we'll do it, okay? But if you come in with an old gun that isn't what we would sort of class as, high-end tournament level gun, and we're at an NXL, well, we won't. Yeah, we'll just laugh at that and tell you to go away. But if you've got one of our higher end guns that's 2-3 years old, we sort of go, well, you shouldn't really be playing in that tournament with that marker, if that makes sense.
Right.
So we sort of go, because what was happening, a lot of people were turning up from the local area, bringing their guns just for us to service, and we would sort of go, oh, here we go, we're just getting duped here. So we sort of said we have to, and just the volume of spares we've got to sort of. So it was like, okay, we've got the new one. So now what we'll do is we'll have this year, for instance, we will have a new set of spares for GO4, and we'll have a new set of spares for LV 1.6, and then we will have to ditch out some of the older guns. So I can't even remember. I'm not going to quote which guns we do. Or
sure,
don't.
No, of course not.
We put it out there. It's not a secret, and we sort of say if you haven't got these guns that are 4 or 5 years old, then we'll help you as much as we can. But it might be that we don't have a solenoid that fits on a an Ether 1, for instance.
Right.
So if you come to us with an Ether 1 and you go, my solenoid's not working, we'll look at it and just go, the only way you're going to do this is to go to a local service centre or send it to us in Rhode Island or in the UK or wherever you are, and then we'll fix that for you then. So that's just the way we have to do it, really.
That actually reminds me of one of the questions that I wanted to ask, and I can't believe I forgot this. So the solenoids in the new LV1s are rebuildable, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the previous solenoids are not rebuildable.
Correct.
Now, is there a way to use a 1.6 solenoid in an older E-Tech?
No.
Well, that blows.
The E-Tech.
Sorry, not E-Tech. I meant Egos. My apologies.
Right. Yeah. No. Not in the. No. Can't. It's just I believe. Like I said, I'm not a technical dude. I think the shape and size of where it connects onto the gun is completely different. So because we designed and built this solenoid ourselves, and one of the features that we wanted to put into it was that it was user strippable and serviceable, because we realized that the solenoids is probably the single most expensive part of the market, really. Where to keep it maintained, the circuit board and the solenoid, they're a couple of $120, something like that. I think we sell the solenoids for at events, and same for circuit board, and so if one of those things goes down, it's a big ticket item.
It is.
If you can suddenly service that yourself, or we can service it for you at events, you don't have to pay $120 to get a new one. It's happy days, really. So.
Right, and you don't have to pay extra. You just put a few little washers in, as opposed to having to put in full-on solenoids, and it makes your teching easier too.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we've got a European central sort of spares depository now, where we had all these different spare parts all around on all our different factories,
right?
And so we call them our historical spares, and we sent them all to Germany, and they sit there in Germany now. So if you wanted to get a trigger blah for an 08 gun, we don't have any in the UK anymore. We don't have them in Rhode Island. It's all sat in Germany, but they've got it all set up so you can ship. I'm not sure Canada. I'm not sure what they do with Canada, because Badlands is our distributor. But in the US, I know they have a system set up, and I think it's like $9 shipping, and you can get all your spares from there. And it's just a way of getting really old spares. But I mean, the amount of money, I was saying before about setting up a gun, gun company setting up a new one. The amount of money that we've got sat in spares is phenomenal. I mean, bet. There's warehouses with rows. It's like Indiana Jones. When they are the Covenant, and they look, and it's massive. It's not quite that big, but there's just rows and rows and boxes of spares sat there, and it's so that a customer can phone up and say, "Hi, I need and it's and we'll hopefully have it. I mean, from old stickers, from old guns, and all the way up to sort of present day. I mean, there's some stuff we haven't got, but I mean, some of the stuff we haven't got, we're sort of happy that it's those. If someone comes in and we've got an 05 Ego and they go, "Oh, can you just do this?" I'm like, "No, mate, 15 years old. It's time for it to go into a museum. We can't keep that going any longer." So it's difficult.
I'm just waiting for people to start modifying the old Egos to take the new solenoids, because I just like the idea of I love the idea of trying to get that E-blade back up and running just for the fun of it, because I loved how it felt and how it shot. And I don't short stroke it. Not that I short stroke a regular cocker, but so yeah. Anyway, but I just wondered if that was possible.
No, not possible. As far as I know, not possible. I've just been told that. I've never looked inside one, so I've got no idea. But I think there's a solid reason why it's not possible.
Right. I'm no doubt that Jack has his reasons, because he is brilliant and he's funny. I love watching his stuff, and I'm really glad, and I hope you can tell him from me in person. I'm really glad that he took stuff home and he's doing those videos of different tech and different shooting and stuff from the house, because I subscribe and I'm watching that, and I'm really enjoying seeing the new product, even though we're all the craziness in the world. You still get to see that new bit, and I get to interact with. Well, not that I'm actually interacting with them, although I'm interacting with you, but I get to. There's more to the name than just the name. Like there's a personality behind Jack Woods as well, and that's just
I do that. I think
in its own way.
It's important to know that. I mean, we're a tiny team. It's not there's not 30 guys in the design studios coming up with ideas. There's literally there's 3 guys in our in the design team, and then they've got support guys that with them. Sort of Fish is one of their support guys, but there's basically Matt, Jack, and Flash are the 3 guys that design everything. So it's not a huge, there isn't a huge amount, which is great because it's a small team. But Jack's got a load of stuff at home, and he's going to do a load of shooting videos and just have a play around. I think. I mean, Jack's house got a massive garden, which is lovely. So he's got to go and shoot. If I shot the length of my garden's about 20 feet long. So I'd hit everything at least. And then Fish is he's working from home now. And he is going to start doing tech videos. So while people are at home, we're going to start doing maintenance videos, so you can sort of get your gun ready for when we all start playing again. I think he's going to do things like we've started to ask. I get involved in the tech support questions coming in, and he does a lot of them, but we do some on Facebook together. So the questions that we sort of consider to be I'm not going to say that word. Anyway, the questions that we get asked a lot, which are quite simple, to us it's simple. To other people, it might be a little bit more difficult. So it might be, how do I set my trigger on my CS2? Because when we send out a CS2, it has to be in a state that is right in the middle. So it has to be, it's got wiggle room on either way. It's a Formula One racing car, but it's set to sort of drive on the streets, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah. So people want to be able to tune their trigger to an absolute, I want it to do this and do that. So he's going to sort of do videos during this period that people can sort of watch, and he's going to do those from home. He's literally going to be pretty low tech. He's going to have his camera down like this, and he's going to, get his hands underneath it, and he's going to sort of do that. So we're going to try and create as much content as we can, just to keep people engaged in paintball as well, because we know that's only going to last so long, and we're all going to be wanting to go blast people, aren't we? As soon as
I already want to blast people.
Yeah, so we're doing that. I mean, the other thing, a bit of a campaign which is going to start coming out in soon, and it's something that you can get involved in.
Okay.
A lot of the industry now are getting together. We've started to talk about how to keep paintball strong. So we're starting a movement called Paintball Strong. And it's just about keeping content, and it's about keeping everybody engaged. I mean, this podcast is perfect. It's keeping everybody who watches it engaged in paintball. And we're creating content that we're going to start pushing out. More and more of it. Cool videos, cool photographs, just imagery. And we want everybody to. We all sit and moan, don't we, about how, why don't we take loads of people paintballing, and how are we going to grow the sport? But we all just see these things, and a lot of us don't even click the like button, and even more of us don't even click the share button. So we need to start doing that,
right?
And because on my Facebook page, I might have a couple of hundred friends, and there's probably only half of those that are actual paintballers, but the other half could be. So maybe I need to start, sharing that cool content, and sort of filling up my timeline with cool content that says, I'm a paintballer, go play paintball.
You know what? Maybe. And I happen to know that there's going to be a YouTube video starring you coming out in about a few hours. And that might be the first thing you need to start sharing. Okay.
You mean this? Okay. Yeah.
I mean this.
Talking about what is it? Yeah, of course, yes, yeah, and it will be, and we all need to share these things, and that's so the industry realizes this, and we sort of need to, people sort of might complain about the industry not being unified, but we have spoken, and not everybody in the industry has spoken because it was pulled together by very last minute, and we will get everybody in the industry involved in it, but it's just Paintball Strong is the hashtag, and we want people to sort of start saying that Paintball Strong and doing it, and I think that's
all right. Well, I will definitely start doing that as of today,
I want to
And
now.
oh, you want the banner? All right, hold on 1 second.
Hashtag paintball strong.
Yeah, 1 second.
Scrolling. Need it scrolling.
And enter and show. There we go.
Perfect.
I will definitely start doing that today. But on a side note, though, if there's anything that I can ever do for you, do not hesitate to reach out to me. Like, okay. And I'm not asking for anything. I'm just saying if there's anything I can do for you, don't hesitate. I would love to get Jack Wood on this because he's a character. Okay. And then you said Fish and Flash.
Yeah. Well, Fish is tech support. That's his thing.
Sure.
Yeah. Matt and Flash. Matt is one of the designers. Yeah, you're probably best sticking to Jack. Yeah. Flash goes a bit and camera shy, and I don't think Matt would particularly enjoy the process. But he might do. But Jack's the one who's good with his gab. And Fish is a good lad. He's so passionate about paintball.
Right.
He'll send me an email saying, "Have you seen what this guy's just written to us on the tech support forum?" And he'll be somebody slagging off our products. And I go, "Well, he's got a problem. Let's fix it." And he goes, "Well, I can fix it, but he can't call me a douche." Okay, yeah, you can't. But
well, anything that I can do to help you guys, I will happily do.
Okay.
Because you obviously care about paintball. I'm sorry, say that again?
Let's get Jack on, for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll do that. I'll arrange that with Jack.
Yeah, maybe sometime next week.
Yeah.
Or whatever's good for him.
Yeah. Okay, so because you've got this jersey on as well, because we're going to have to wrap up soon.
Right.
Children are starting to get. I go on a bike ride, you see, with the kids. So
okay.
It's a homeschooling at the moment because the schools are closed. So their homeschool finishes at 3 minutes ago, and then I take them for a bike ride. We go. That's our exercise.
Oh, nice.
So I'll have to. But that jersey you've got on, okay? In my office at Planet, I've got, I think, 7 of those jerseys in red.
Okay.
That one you've got on.
Right.
That one, okay. But they're short sleeved, okay. And I had them made years ago, and they've all got money clips as well. They're proper legit, all packaged. And I don't know what to do with them. Okay, so the idea was that if there's a soccer team somewhere, yeah, who wants them, yeah, if you want to do something where you give them away, I'll send them anywhere in the world. You can choose whoever's got the best reason for them to have them, and they contact you. I don't know how you do all that.
I've never actually done a real giveaway.
Right. Well, there you go. There's your first. You can work it out. And then, I've got them. That's literally sat in the end of my end of my office, sat there, and I keep going. Oh, I'll do something with those. I'll do something with those, and then never end up getting around to it. So if there's a soccer team, they're all mixed sizes, but they're adult sizes. They're not kids,
right?
I'm quite happy for you to choose somebody, and we'll donate.
Can I make a suggestion then?
Can you?
Instead of me taking it, as much as I would love it, can we send it to the Ali Remembered Foundation,
Absolutely.
Which is to help defend domestic violence?
Yeah.
And then they can auction it off when they have their big game for support. And that way it helps advance that. And that money is going to go towards getting kids to paintball tournaments and into the pro pits with the Pit Pals program. Have you heard about that?
No.
Okay, so what we're going to be doing is it's going to be all kids, but we're going to be leaning more towards domestic violence survivors. But we're going to be taking young teens and we're going to be getting them into the pits of the pro teams. So Dynasty is going to be doing some, and I believe it's Seattle Uprising. Seattle Uprising is the Virtue team, correct?
Not sure.
Anyway, but the Virtue team and a couple other teams as well. But we're going to be expanding it to a majority of pro teams. And it's not any one specific sponsor or anything like that. But we're going to be helping kids. So if you don't mind, I would happily take that and put that towards the charity.
I can do more than that as well. So there's some other bits and bobs in my office, which we have like, I have the odd prototype product, like clothing or jerseys that we never, or hats that we never ever produced. And they're like one-off, so I can send some of those things as well.
I would love those. And if you want to sign it or get Jack Woods to sign it, that would be great too, if that's not too much trouble. If you can't, then it's all good. But yeah.
Remind me after COVID-19's finished.
Right, of course.
I can't go to the office right now, so.
No, of course not.
Yeah, we can do that. No problem.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you so much for taking the time to spend it. And like I said, if there's anything that I can personally do to help you guys, don't hesitate to ask, because I will happily.
No, just keep doing your podcasts, spread the word, tell everybody to share this stuff, and keep paintball strong.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, mate.
All right. I will talk to you again soon, and hopefully our past cross, I'll be able to buy you a beer.
Sounds good. I like beer.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Cheers, Steve. Bye-bye.
Bye now.